And the next item for you here on the 70th weekly show from Radio Free UK is another item from Alan's Antics, Alan Taylor Shearer's own podcast, which I do recommend you click through to get the full experience. This is an almost unbelievable story of how a 71-year-old grandmother was treated by the British legal system and her local council.
From telegraph.co.uk. Grandmother, 71, sent to top security jail after refusing council's demands over care. In 2014, a man moved in with Mrs. K at her small home in Sussex so that she could sell his house and use the money to buy a larger property. A neighbour alerted Devon County Council to the move, and in April 2015, a social worker recommended that the man should be brought back to Devon to live in a care home, and a judge ruled that he did not have the mental capacity to make decisions for himself. The council obtained a court order freezing his assets, including the house. Mrs. K decided to take the man to Portugal the same month, where he was hospitalised because of his dementia and moved into a care home in September last year. A series of court hearings followed over the next year, but Mrs. K refused to sign papers releasing him to the care of the county council. Mrs. K's solicitor, Shahana Begum, said, quote, "There's been a vast amount of public money wasted on this case without achieving anything that's going to be beneficial for this man. Any move at this stage is likely to result in his death." End quote. A spokesman for Devon County Council said, quote, "In this case, Miss K willfully refused to comply with orders of the court, and such refusal gave the judge little choice but to send her to prison. At all times, the paramount concern for Devon County Council is the welfare of the vulnerable adult for whom it has responsibility." Who says it has responsibility for him? Did he demand responsibility? No. Mrs. K seemed to be doing a fair enough job. She was helping a man out. And if you're listening to this via my page on RadioFreeUK.org/blogs/Alan, you can see a picture of the man who put this 71-year-old grandmother into jail, a high-security jail, for 6 months. Mr. Justice Newton. And this all occurred in the secretive Court of Protection. Now, Court of Protection is here in the UK, and they deal with cases where, local authorities come along and say, we should be looking after this person, they can't look after themselves, so we should be doing it. And invariably, in my experience anyway, the court goes in the council's favour. But Mr. Justice Newton looked at this 71-year-old and said, "You've not put your name on a piece of paper that would put this man, who's not related to you, into the hands of the county council, who will take control of all his assets and his estate, because he has dementia, and they say he can't look after himself." She seemed to be looking after him quite well and was quite happy to take him to Portugal on holiday. He became ill, so she came home and sorted out healthcare for him, put him in a residential home. Well, Devon have said, no, he's ours. We must have him back. He must come back because we are Devon Council and we control everybody in Devon. And they must do as they are told. So they went to the Court of Protection, where, by the way, the public aren't allowed, and neither are reporters and journalists, so we hear about these stories after the event. Nobody's allowed to report on anything whilst it's going on in the Court of Protection. We don't get a say in who does what, who says what. There's no jury. It's all down to this particular Justice Newton. And that is the law in the UK. Feel like you live in a free country? I'm not so sure, People who believe that they live in a free country simply can't see the bars. If we were free, why do we need a driving licence? Why do we need a passport to leave the country and to come back in again? Because they want to control you and me. We're not free. Don't kid yourself. This poor woman has had to spend time in jail because she helped out a neighbour.